Hey, so Catherine's going to introduce Dana, but I'd like to do a little pre-introduction because Dana is the best boss I ever had, and for her to be here today with us. Those of you who saw it, it's online. Her LEAP presentation, which Martha Stewart tweeted, a hidden treasure, talking about Dana. But she is not so hidden anymore, but not only as a boss, not only strategically brilliant, but also a believer in people and people striving and taking leaps to achieve what they can achieve. And so, Dana, thank you for being here today. And Catherine, I hope I didn't take away any of the introduction thunder, but I...
No, it's fine. I have nothing. Okay. All right. So, as Marty just mentioned, we're really excited to have Dana Anderson here today. As you know, she is the Senior Vice President of Marketing Strategy and Communications at Mondolez, which is Kraft Foods' new global snack food. It was formerly Kraft Foods' global snack food division, and now it's an entirely new company, which Dana is leading. And
well, that's the way. That's it. Because Irene just shuddered at the moment.
And as Marty just mentioned, LEAP. So if you don't know, last year Dana presented LEAP at last year's conference. I'm very excited that she's back today to talk about Point. So with that, Dana Anderson.
Thank you. Hey guys, how you doing? I dripped all over. Are we all good? We're good? Thank you all so much for coming. It really is very nice, and it gave me a good excuse to leave my office. I want to ask you if you know who this is. Uh-oh. Yeah? No? Yeah? You may have to help me. I don't know. Maybe not. I could just wear it as a brooch. Eugene Poley, do you know who he is? He died this year. In May. He was 90, and you know what I mean? He has a long life. It wasn't like he flopped up. From the man. He invented something that each one of you has, 3, 4, 5 of them. And by his own description, it was second only to the flush toilet in its impact on civilization. So every time you are snuggling up in your pajama jammies and you don't have to get off the couch to change the channel, you've got Eugene to thank for it because he created the remote control. The wireless remote control. But he didn't name it that. Oh no. Oh Lord. You can point that right out. Like, madam, you have Pepsi on your bosom. What do you think he named it? We will never guess because it was so awful. He called it the Flashmatic. The Flashmatic. And you can see them all sitting around the table going, what should we call it? And somebody says, how about the Flashmatic? And they went, yeah, that's a great idea. So I'm reading his obit in the New York Times at the same time that I'm preparing for a speech at Nielsen. You all know what Nielsen is. They're exciting people. On the topic of collaboration. And they've given the same topic to every speaker, and I am the last speaker. And so I'm thinking, I really need to name this something good. Because I've already seen the other titles, and they're all the same. It's all collaborating up and down and over and sideways. So I'm thinking, and I work on these things a long time, so I have a lot of time to figure it out. And should I try it one more time, do you think? And I'm reading Vanity Fair. I just gave this speech in Istanbul, and I told them it was a serious intellectual magazine. But no, it isn't. It's very, kind of a fancy people. And I'm reading this article about Barry Levinson's 1983 classic movie, Diner. Has anybody seen it? You should if you haven't. Well, it is a classic. And the article in Vanity Fair, it's about 25 years after it, interviews everybody who was an actor in it. And Barry Levinson at the time, it's a coming-of-age story of 6 young men in Baltimore, Maryland. And he picked up, everybody was an unknown actor, but he picks one comic, Paul Reisler, to be in the movie. And all the other actors are feeling kind of superior to Mr. Reisler. But Daniel Stern, who played Shrevey, and Paul Reisler plays Modell, says when he started, we were boink on the edge of our seats. And I think that's the title, boink, because it's just right. It feels like something happens, like an idea happens, like vacuum took, like boink, like boink. So I decide I'm going to name it Foink. And I sent to them this page, Foink, collaborating from the edge of your seat. And how long do you think it took before they called me back? About a day. So we need to talk to you about your title. I said, yes. Well, we don't think you should use that in particular. I said, yes. Why? And he said, well, because it starts with an F and it ends with a K. I said, so does fork, but I would imagine we'll be using them at lunch. But they persisted and said, perhaps you should change it to boink or zoink. And I said, I don't think boink is actually an improvement. I mean, I don't. And for one day, I changed it to zoink, and then thought, no, because this is, my friends, collaboration of the worst sort. I stood my ground and went there with Foink on my slide, but it was not in the program. They didn't put it in the program. After the speech was over, and I tend to leave after they're done, because, you gotta come down the night before. What are you going to do there? So I'm going out the back side, and the guy comes out the side and goes, I knew it was going to be. I said, oh, I bet you did. So anyway, Foink. Getting ready for it, I learned a lot about collaboration. I really did, and I want to tell you about an experiment that we've done in Buenos Aires that has to do with how agencies and clients work together. But to get started, I've got two numbers for you, and usually I have those because the Nielsen people relaxed them right away. Because, the Foink thing kind of did throw them off, so we got kind of back to the center of things. And the first number is what happens if you Google what is wrong with collaboration. 166 million answers. And the next number is how many titles there are on Amazon of books that are written about collaboration, which tells you it's a highly desired state, but very difficult to achieve. So I go and get the top books. In particular, I can tell you the two that probably were the best books, Collaboration by Morton Hansen and The Culture of Collaboration by Evan Rosen. What they didn't do, I must say, is collaborate with a creative writer, because these books are snoozers. If you are having any problems, this would be the one to get, because you're like, oh my, I had to read them, so I poked myself with a pencil in the eye. And even though they're not exciting to read, they cover off kind of the basic information, that it takes a certain kind of leadership to lead in collaboration. This is where you guys are going to have a great advantage over other people. It says, I thought it was very funny. He says, leaders with big egos who are arrogant or defensive don't make good. I'm thinking, and when would they? I mean, when would that be a good combination of qualities? They say that no collaboration is better than bad. Not every task should be collaborated, but that the benefit of doing so is so important to business and to global business that it is worthwhile. Also, the environment that you're in and how well you can remove the obstacles really would make a difference. So, and you're all nodding your head because, hello, Mom, are you here? Because it's logical, doesn't it make sense? Like those things make sense. So I thought, well, you know what, I'm going to dig a little bit deeper. And I'm sure, as you know, most people I talk to don't spend a lot of time trolling on YouTube, but I'm sure you do. There are a lot, you can find research on every topic, and there is a lot of research on collaboration, a lot. Everything has been studied, from brain surgery to bun making. Let me tell you, they've studied how people do it together. And I found a really big surprise. That is the number of research studies that are done about animal collaboration, and it turns out it actually is true. Birds and bees actually do it, as do ants, as do everybody else. In fact, here is the cover of a science magazine. Chimpanzees recruit collaborators better than humans do. I say it's because they're not on a bonus system, but so I went to, now by this I went to all the planners that we work with, and I said, tell me about collaboration. I mean, you are out there all the time facilitating, and you've seen people from around the world, so tell me how it goes on. And interesting, they said that collaborating is a lot like love. It requires trust, commitment, clear communication, giving. But like romance, it is highly idealized. And like most marriages, only half of them are going to succeed. And the same is true for collaboration. In fact, they said that in their minds, collaborating was a low-yield activity because the energy put into the event often does not equal the outcome. And for those of you who have been on a group, working with a group, and sometimes it would have been easier to do it by yourself than to chase around the other 4 people you're supposed to be working with. Also, I think we misname what collaboration is. Sometimes we mean alignment, which in the business world means I meant like this. Are you okay? You showed it? I showed it to everybody. They saw it. I'm not actually asking. I'm just going, did I share it with you? Yes. Another form of consensus. And then, of course, there's the ever-popular brainstorming, which I hope you're still not doing. Whoever said there is no such thing as a bad idea apparently was not in need of a really good one, because most ideas, frankly, are not good. It's a great idea is hard. It's hard. Other one, every person in this room, we would all be Mark Zuckerberg if everything was a good idea. So it is not about opinion polling. It is not about let's everybody vote, which very much, when we first started practicing this at Mondolez, that's what we did. And so what do you think, Trish? No? That's a no? Okay, we'll write you in for a no. Bob? Oh, Bob, see, yes, we'll put him in the... And the point is that what we're doing is trying to get to one destination. The definition of collaboration is by its very nature we have the same destination, and most of the time we don't because we have different agendas and we're doing different things. Here's what the literature says works and doesn't work. This is where we live. This is where most corporations live. They are very homogeneous, even global corporations, because we ascribe to a set of values, we ascribe to a set of goals. We tend to hire people that we can't like and get along with, and if we don't, we'll make it miserable, so you want to leave and go somewhere else anyway. We are conflict averse. We're very proper about how we disagree, and there's a reason for it, because you can't brawl in the hallways when you're not in agreement with one another. But that sometimes leaves us not good about saying, I don't like that or I don't agree. And we tend to be isolated. We work on campuses, away from everybody. No, some of those people have not seen strangers for lunch in forever. At one point in time during the Mondolez move, there was a brief moment in time where they actually thought about moving downtown. And I lived downtown, so I was doing the big jig dance because I'm thinking, gets me off the highway for an hour and a half. These people were petrified. We have to get on the train! Oh my God! Oh, my son was robbed at the train station! A busy train station. Just sit down on the floor. If somebody asks you for money at the ATM, just say no and sit down. But no, they were petrified. And I kept thinking, oh my gosh, how good for us to be in an area where we would actually interact with a lot of different people. To actually maybe be a little nervous about going to work and have a different pathway every day. So this is often where big companies live, so you can see how difficult it is to have a collaborative environment. This is what the literature says. You almost always need an outsider view, even if you have an embedded alien that you bring in, whose agenda is not yours, and can sit at that table and go, you guys are doing great, but I think this is going to go. You've got to be able to debate and not have it be personal, and what Jonah Lehrer calls weak networks. Weak networks are when you know a lot of different people, a cello player, a poet, a bricklayer, a sewer digger. You may not know them deeply, but when we have really deeply bonded relationships with people, it's hard for us to collaborate in new ways. And knowing different kinds of people, that diversity, really helps us create better collaboration. In fact, he says there are more patents. The most dense populations in the world have the most pens because of that cluster and that ability to have it with them. So in light of this, I mean, you look at this and you think this is hard. Collaborating is hard, and there are lots of examples of bad outcomes. And I'm going to show you one that I've never shown anybody else. I didn't want to embarrass anybody. I'm just twittering. Okay, so what do you think? This is a notepad. This is a notepad, right? And what do you do with the notepad? You jot notes on it. You use it to write things down. So we had a group who had just finished a research document that had 7 different ways people have dinner, and they thought to themselves, wouldn't it be really good if we could remind our grand teams, because they always forget, those 7 ways. And somebody says, why don't we put it on a notepad? And everybody says, that's a really good idea. And then they did. And then somebody says, well, don't just put it on there. I think we need to put a description of each of the 7 things. What if they don't remember that? Then we'll put that in there. And then for some reason, they made it look like Stonehenge. They couldn't do it down the side. It's got to be in this circle thing. And then it's got the description. A mouse with a microscope could not read this. And then there's even a mousy or mouse type under there because there's some correction to this. And then they make it in colors and put a line here so you would know don't write up here because this is the reminder about the 7 different ways. This is collaboration. I mean, it has perverted the very purpose that a notepad is for. So I meet with these people, they tell me about the study like very nice, and they gave me 10 of these. I can sure nobody, and I said, you know, someday this will come in handy, and today is that day. Because this is when it goes bad. So in light of this, we thought, well, okay, it is challenging, but maybe there is an area where we can try collaboration in a new way. And could we take a different path? And the area which we looked at were how agencies and clients work together, because we've been doing it the same way for 50 years. I mean, if you think about the time, other than the heavy drinking during the 60s and 70s, pretty much, I give an assignment, I give it to you, you go off by yourself, you work on it, you call me bad names, you come back, you show it, I buy it, I change it, I touch it, I don't, you go back, you do more, you come back. I mean, ultimately, I've maybe sanded all the edges off, maybe I haven't, but it is a transaction that takes place. So we thought, is there a different way to do this? Now, to be real honest with you, this experiment had started as a series of 2 questions. How can we make our work more digital? And how do we have our people be more creative? It ended up with a very interesting to-do list. And this was what we decided to do. The first thing we decided was we're going to find a hideout. That means we're not going to do this at our house, and we're not going to do this at the agency's house. We are going to find neutral territory that no one owns, that becomes the place of this group. We're going to detox our own kids. That means the people that work for Mondolez, because we can be a little uptight, we're going to spend 3 days with them and kind of scrub that down and get them to think about this more creatively. We're going to invite perfect strangers. Where does that come from? Where does that come from? Embedded aliens. We're going to invite people who don't have anything to do with what we're doing and ask them to be a part of us, from Hyper Island, from Contagious Magazine, from freelancers, from Innovation Lab, from all over. We're going to judge them every single day. There's going to be no ownership of anything, and we're going to give them impossible time frames. And I think we ended up reshaping the terrain of collaboration. It started in Buenos Aires. It was called The Garage, because like a garage band, you get together and make music, and sometimes it sounds good and sometimes it doesn't, but it can be rough. It was one brand. It's only one brand. It lasts for 14 days, and there were 20 flyers, as we called them. Its name has now morphed to Fly Garage, which in Brazil means quite a bit, but anyway. And to give you a summary of the woman who helped create it, she said, what we are doing, just shut up and do it. Shut up and do it. The program was built brick by 3 people who became the curators of the work. Jess Greenwood, who is now at RGA but was at Contagious Magazine. If you've never had her speak, have her come. She is stunning. She always speaks with no shoes on, no matter what the temperature is. Nico Pimentel, who is from Castro Innovation. who was a new products person, and Maria Mujica, who was the person who thought of this whole idea. They studied all these forms of collaboration, all these different, because everybody does it. Academic monkeys do it. Everybody has studied this, and they found a way to put together a program that they created. We launched it, we did a pilot, it was in Ad Age, the global issue, and we took it to Cannes and had an open invitation for anybody to come. I think we didn't realize it at the time, but we put a new model to test while we were there. How we were going to interact, how ideas were created, and how to move from transaction to what became like a startup. They worked together like a startup. 3 things happened that were really important. And the first one was that consumers were there with us. There wasn't a report, there wasn't a video, there wasn't a segmentation of cheese lovers and cheese haters and the 3 people in between. They actually came in the room. And there's something particularly humbling about being creative when the target of your affection is going, I have no idea what you're talking about. The second thing we did, and Nico Pimentel, the creative director, who I told you who was part of the curator, he said, I will not let anybody keep their idea for more than 3 hours. This is so not how it's done in this world. The creative, it is my idea. I will even show it to the executive creative director when I'm ready. And I may or may not change it, but it is mine. Imagine saying to people when you come in, you get it for 3 hours. So the 2 of you would work together for 3 hours. Everybody puts their work up. The curators come in at night and decide what is going to progress the next day. I asked Nico, does anybody argue with you? And he said no, because those are the run rules of the startup. So the next day when you come in, you 2 are going to work together on a totally different idea, and you are going to work together. So you're building all the time. I think the other important part was this was not about team building. This was not about idea building. You had to go prototype and do it. So if you have a technologically oriented idea, you got to figure out how to do it by the end of the 2 weeks. We are there to create ideas, and we do it. The next thing that really surprised me is Jess Greenwood said, well, you know, it really leveled the playing field. And I went, I don't know what you mean it leveled the playing field. She said, well, you know, the craft people, the Mondolez people created in the same way that the other people did. And I'm thinking, she must be being polite, because I'm going to tell you, if I was going to make a bet on our guys being as creative as the next guy, I would have said no. So before I gave the speech, I called Nico, and I said, you got to tell me the truth, because I will take it out. It really isn't important. I need you to tell me the truth. He said they did. Now, granted, we picked people to be in this, but he said your folks created at the same level and the same intensity as the people we had in the room. And I often ask people, business people, what would you do? How much would you pay to make your people more creative? What would you do if there was a way that they could actually be more creative? So that was an incredible outcome of this. But I asked them, the curators at the end, because those 3 things were pretty big. But what was it that really amazed you from this whole thing? What was the most curious part of this experiment? Because we had already changed the rules of engagement. We had changed the way our folks were contributing. We kind of erased that client-agency divide, and we saw our own folks blossom. And this was the answer, that the biggest foink is generosity. That's something that they felt, that they had somehow achieved this egoless state that became natural in the group. That in essence, they all were a part of this thing that happened in this place. They credited it with the group's success and productivity. And I will tell you, all the books I read on collaboration, not one of them had a chapter in it about the concept of generosity. Yet the founders described this as the experiment's biggest, greatest gift. So I want to show you a video that takes you to another world where generosity is a part of how they work. Any of you know the show The Green Room by Paul Provenza? It is on cable. Paul Provenza is a comic. He invites comics to come and sit and talk about their craft. Sometimes the show's boring, sometimes it's really funny. This particular night, this is an all-star lineup. It is an incredible show. Gary Shandling, Mark Marvo, Ray Romano, and Judd Apatow. There is not a straight line going anywhere in the group. It is like bing, 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 bing. And sitting around on the end of the couch is a 20-something-year-old named Bo Burnham. Do any of you know him?
Yeah.
In the middle of it, Paul Provenza turns to him. And you can tell he's kind of not playing with them in the same way. They're all joking around, and he asks the question, do you think that East versus Western culture makes a difference in humor? And the whole room just went, whoop. So Paul Provenza turns to him and says, will you play Art is Dead? He comes up and plays, so that I want you to watch. It's only 2 minutes long. So he's going to play Art is Dead at the piano. As he's playing, you listen to the content of the song, but the camera's going to go over his shoulder several times to see the old veteran sitting on the couch and see what it is that they're doing.
Would you do me a favor?
I just kind of make jokes.
Would you do me a favor? Would you do Art is Dead?
Yeah.
Because I think that song says everything that I think I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, sure.
Oh, he's a prop comic.
Art is dead, art is dead, art is dead, art is dead. Entertainers like to seem complicated, but we're not complicated. I can explain it pretty easily. Have you ever been to a birthday party for children? One of the children won't stop screaming, cause he's just a little attention attractor. When he grows up to be a comic or actor, he'll be rewarded for never maturing, for never understanding or learning. Every day can't be about him, there's other people. You selfish asshole. Must be psychotic, it must be demented to think that I'm worthy of all this attention, of all of this money you worked really hard for. I slept in late while you worked at the drugstore. My drug's attention, I am an addict, but I get paid to indulge in my habit. It's all an illusion. I'm wearing makeup, I'm wearing makeup, Art is dead, so people think you're funny. How do we get those people's money? Said art is dead. We're rolling in dough while Carlin rolls in his grave. The show has got a budget. The show has got a budget. All the poor people, way more deserving of the money, won't budget because we wanted our name and lights. When we could have fed a family of 4 for 40 fortnights. 40 fortnights. I'm an artist, please God forgive me. I am an artist, please don't revere me. I am an artist, please don't respect me. I am an artist, feel free to correct me. Self-centered artist, self-obsessed artist. I am an artist, I am an artist, but I'm just a kid, I'm just a kid, I'm just a kid. Maybe I'll grow out of it.
So while George Carlin, who he's referring to, is rolling in his grave, we are rolling in the dough. Who is he thinking about? The old guys on the couch. And what are their faces? They are beaming like proud fathers, because in that industry, you give it up to the guy who's on stage. Whether you like the actor a lot, whether you agree with what he's saying or not, he is a performer, and as such deserves your respect and your generosity. Now, I also sense that they might be also smiling. from a sense of generosity because he's a new voice. I mean, he is paid like they are, he's famous like they are, but he has a point of view to bring they are accepting. I think the best part about fluentness is understanding the power of generosity within the ability for your groups to create ideas, for us all to understand the blessings of experimentation, because we are creating facile and future leaders when we do this. We went to Hyper Island in Stockholm. Are you familiar with this? And the first time we went, nobody wanted to talk to us. The second time we went, 67 students applied for 9 positions. And when I talked to Nico, he said the topic is digital, but that's just today's topic. 10 years from now, it won't be the topic. What we are teaching is how to react to what's going on and figure out how to make something happen as a consequence. You would think as humans that we have the corner on the idea of generosity. And if you think that, I would now like to introduce you to Vulcan and Virgil.
A pot of hazelnuts and the flint that's needed to open the lid. You need both to get a nut, but they're separated by a see-through barrier. Vulcan has the rock, but can't reach the nuts. Virgil has the nuts, but knows he can't eat them without a rock. Vulcan quickly offers the tool. He must hope Virgil is smart enough to open the lid and fair enough to cut him in on the spoils. Virgil is struggling. He doesn't have his friend's skill. And Vulcan is getting impatient. The flint is finally through the lid, but can Virgil be trusted to share the nuts? With Vulcan out of reach, it must be tempting to take the lot. Three nuts, a fair share. Vulcan and Virgil have used teamwork to beat the system.
So even animals do it better than we do. I did watch a lot of animal videos to get to the one I shared with you today. So I think for us, after experiencing the Fly Garage in Buenos Aires, I want to tell you that we've actually built a permanent one in Palermo, and we're running so far 7 to 8 a year. Each time we ask new creative leadership to come. And it's kind of like becoming like Second City, you know, where they have their hands in the printed Second City, where some terrific creative leadership is coming down to be a part of it. Linus Carlson, who is the global chief operating officer for McCann, wrote me and said, you know, on the way down, I thought I was just going to go and it was going to be, you know, like everything else. But he said, you really on something here. You are progressing this concept faster than agencies. So we're hopeful that we learn more about how to partner and be a better partner. What I would say to you is my big advice would be to make like a monkey. Pick good partners and be generous with them until they do. Thank you very much.
Dana, do you have time to take a couple questions?
Oh, absolutely. How many monkey videos did I see? Plenty. The lion ones were particularly gruesome, so I didn't. Does anybody have anything? It's okay if you don't. Yes, ma'am.
Where do you see the role of traditional agency-client partnerships with the view to these garage workshops that you're doing, like in comparison to?
I think it is changing because I think agencies are also trying to figure out how to evolve themselves and how to work more efficiently. Sometimes I think we're learning more about how to come together in a different way than we are about the ideas that are actually created, but they are actually doing the ideas that are created. I think it's going to evolve, and you will make it happen because you will demand to work in a new way. You will. We're just trying to lean in and try something new to see if it's better, if we get smarter, if it's easier. It's kind of fun too, I have to say. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
What qualities do you look for people to collaborate with?
I'd like them to be, for me personally, what do I want? I want somebody whose intelligence I can see real quick. I like somebody who has a sense of humor. I like somebody who reads stuff that I don't read, but is interested in the stuff I read that they don't read. I don't like it when you can tell somebody is not curious. And it's that curiosity that mashes everything together, all that different stuff that comes together that turns me on. And that's kind of what I look for. I guess you have to be giving. Some people aren't giving about back and forth. But you kind of figure that out yourself. And you can kind of tell if there's. But yeah. You guys were great. Thanks so much for coming. Good to see you.